not on camera like this for these readings, but today I'm in a different location and I don't have my overhead camera set up, so we, are just going to be rolling with it. My lighting's not great, but here we are. It's the best we can do at the moment. So today's reading is going to be focused on closure, on finding closure, on what information you need, or maybe how you personally can help yourself in finding closure. Kind of looking for tools and recommendations from your guides. And this can apply to really any situation where you're feeling the need for closure and for a sense of peace and release. So that could be after a loss, that could be after a breakup, that could be after leaving a job, that could be after a difficult situation that you just feel like you are still sort of, I guess, holding out for answers or holding out for some type of clean conclusion. I can't promise you're going to get the perfect answer from this reading because it's a collective reading, but my hope is that this does give you a sense of peace and aids you in finding the clarity that you do need in order to move forward. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to be using 3 different decks today. For my pile 1 humans, your deck is the Aquarian Tarot. And here's a little crystal. So if that resonates with you, you will be pile 1 today. For my pile 2 humans, this is the Linestrider mini tarot. So it's a little bitty one. And I think this is a little rose quartz. I'm not sure though. It's a little tumbler. So if that resonates with you, you'll be pile 2 today. And then for my pile 3 humans, this is the Sambucus tarot. And this is a pink jasper. So if that resonates with you, you will be pile 3 today. Unfortunately, I can't give you the side-by-side, but the thumbnail does show you all 3 cards side by side. So if you want to take a look at that, feel free to go back to the beginning. And that's all I got. Let's do it. Hey, pile 1, if you chose the Aquarian Tarot and this little unidentifiable stone, then you're in the right place. All right, so starting with your anchor card, you have the King of Swords in reverse. And so what I'm hearing first off is that I think for many of you, this has to do with a King of Swords type character figure in your life. That could be a parental figure. That could be someone with some degree of authority. That could be a partner who is a little bit authoritative or potentially controlling. And a lot of times when we say the King of Swords in reverse, it is indicating that there's a level of coldness or in some more extreme cases, even cruelty that was involved in this situation. The King of Swords can be a pretty emotionless type figure. They can be someone who is very harsh with their words, someone who can be quite biting and even intimidating or a little bit scary in some cases. And that's not going to apply to everyone. But for some of you, it probably will apply that this may be someone who was abusive in your life or someone who was dominating, controlling, manipulative, etc. Fill in the blank. If the situation you're dealing with is not so extreme, again, this could be someone who maybe misused their power, someone who, sorry, I had to fix that. Oh my God. This could be someone who, give up, was quite critical and someone who continually pointed out your imperfections and kind of honed in on the parts of you that maybe were not in line with the ideal image that they had of you. And this hair keeps popping out and doesn't want to go back in. So perhaps you resisted that. Perhaps you sort of like pushed up against the way that this King of Swords type figure criticized or made you to feel like you were not lovable because of your very human flaws. And for a lot of you, I get the sense that this kind of dug up a lot of childhood wounding or early wounding for you around your lovability and around your ability and, or I should say, around your worthiness of receiving love, of receiving genuine love and care. And so if this is resonating, I'm really sorry that this is something that you experienced. This is something I've experienced. It's very difficult. And I get the sense that for many of you, you're coming back to a place of recognizing yourself for who you are instead of the version of yourself that you were made to believe was true by this person's influence and maybe by prior people in your life who had a similar energy. For a lot of you, this could be a partner or even a friend or a boss or someone who made you to feel, influenced you to feel like you were less than, like you were inferior, like you did not measure up in some way. And I think for a lot of you that, again, brought up core wounds from the way that caregivers or parents treated you as a child, and potentially the way that siblings treated you as a child, if that resonates too, especially if you have older siblings. In any case, this may be a cycle that you've gone through with multiple different people in multiple different types of relationships and situations throughout your life. And part of your path to finding closure is coming into true love and appreciation for yourself. It's coming into a true recognition and a sort of carving out of an identity and a personhood that is not reliant on the way that other people treat you. And that's not easy because often the way that people treat us is sort of like our most obvious reflection, it seems, of who we truly are. We kind of invest a lot of ourselves in the way that people treat us and believe that if someone's treating us poorly, if someone's harming us, if someone's being unkind to us, that's a sign that there's something fundamentally wrong with us as people, which is just not true. And it's hard, though, because it's not an intellectual process of just saying, oh, that's not true, and sort of like, I guess, my screen keeps going on and off, sorry. So if you see me do that, that's what's happening. It's not true, but just saying that out loud and just hearing someone else say that is not quite enough for you to sort of integrate that knowing and to actually come into a space of self-love. So in your reading today, let's explore what you can do to sort of rebuild your sense of self and your sense of identity and truth and a clarity around who you are as a person that is not dependent on this King of Swords or any other King of Swords type figure in your life. All right, so I kind of want to start out for you by asking for your guides to give us a reflection of how they see you. How do Pile One's guides see them? What do Pile One's guides want them to know about the way that they are seen? All right, so first up we have the Eight of Cups in reverse. So to me, this is saying that your guides see you as moving on from heartbreak, but also being still kind of 1 foot in the door with a relationship that does really need to be let go of. And I'm assuming that's the one we're here to kind of explore today. So they recognize that it's time for you to move on, but it feels like your heart does not want to do that. Your heart, this hair thing is really weird and it's annoying, but this is the first time this has like happened today. So the fact that it's happening in this reading feels relevant. It feels like that part of you that got really attached to your own imperfections and what this person was mirroring back at you or showing you or telling you was wrong with you. It feels like this has been embedded in you to the degree that you need to perform some type of cord cutting in order to move forward. And so if you don't know what cord cutting means, and that's a process that you're unfamiliar with, I I would recommend looking into it and finding some trustworthy resources. I can maybe like find some resources to link you to in the comments below. But the Eight of Cups in reverse is telling me that there's a part of your heart and a part of your soul and your energy that needs to come back to you that's been invested in this relationship for a long time. And that's understandable. We invest parts of ourselves. We invest time and energy and love into people. But when we close a door, if we don't go through an energetic process of also parting ways from that person, often it's like a part of ourselves gets left behind. And we may have recurrent, cyclical, sometimes more obsessive thoughts about this person. And part of the process of grieving a relationship is allowing ourselves to feel. But if we've been grieving a relationship for a long time and maybe it's feeling less emotional and just more mental at this point, like we are still sort of fixated on them and, trying to find answers, part of why you're here today, and trying to maybe tap into their energy and understand how they're feeling, sometimes that is an indication that there's another step that needs to be taken. And so for you, your guides are seeing that you still have energy and love probably and care invested in this person, and that part of your healing process is going to require you to actually take that affirmative step forward and to say, I'm ready to cut ties with this person. And so what that might practically look like is conducting a cord cutting ritual or having a practitioner conduct a cord cutting ritual for you. You can listen to a cord cutting meditation. There are plenty on YouTube that are really powerful and helpful, where they guide you through a sort of visualization and meditation process to cut energetic ties with someone or something. And some other options. Full moons are a good time to perform cord cutting rituals, and you can do something as simple as writing down on a piece of paper the name of the person or just my relationship with X and their name, and with not malice, but just intention, even kindness and compassion, if you can muster that, setting that little piece of paper on fire in a fire-safe bowl, and then either disposing of the ashes once it's safe to, or sometimes you can even put those ashes into like a plant, or that might not be the best idea, but there are options. And what that essentially does is it allows us to energetically close that door. And you might notice then that a lot of the thoughts and a lot of maybe the dreams, if that's relevant for you, will start to subside because you've taken that extra step. And you might need to perform this multiple times. But recognize that just having thoughts and feelings and memories come up for a person does not mean that you need to be with that person. It does not mean that the relationship was good for you. It just means that there's still a big part of you that's connected to them. Okay, the second card for how your guides see you is the Empress. And this is beautiful. The Empress is powerful. The Empress is multifaceted and dynamic. People often refer to the Empress as sort of like containing the power and wisdom of all four of the queens of the tarot. So we have the Queen of Wands, who's powerful and confident and creative and inspirational, a really incredible leader, and someone who just really is self-embodied. And then we have the Queen of Cups, who is kind and compassionate and intuitive and warm and receptive and a highly psychic figure too. And then we have the Queen of Swords, who's very intelligent and discerning, wise, someone who's able to sort of like cut through the fluff and get to the core of something, get to the truth. An honest figure, but someone who also has strong boundaries. And then finally we have the Queen of Pentacles, who is grounded and resourceful and who is very strong. The Queen of Pentacles is a very strong figure, connected to earth, connected to the solidity and the power and the resourcefulness of the earth and of nature. And so your guides are emphasizing that you contain all of this within you. You're not going to show up in all of those forms all the time. That's just not human. It's not possible. But you do contain the potential to embody all of that. And they see all of that within you. And if you're feeling insecure, if you're feeling a lack of confidence and a lack of self-love and a lack of compassion for self, tuning into the Empress and asking the Empress for support can be a really powerful way to return to yourself. So if you have a tarot deck, I would recommend taking the Empress card out and placing it on your altar if you have an altar. And if you don't have an altar, it would be a great time to create one. Potentially a self-love altar, something physical in your space. All you really need for an altar is like a glass of water, a candle, a clean surface. I like to place something living on my altar. So if it's like a plant or a flower, and you could place an Empress card there and just meditate on it. Spend a couple minutes, a few minutes a day with it. And it can feel odd at first to connect to a card in this way or to an archetype in this way if you haven't done that before. But for you, beginning to see yourself through the lens of the Empress, beginning to see the capacity and the potential that you contain and all of the ways that you exhibit these qualities, and to own it and to recognize it and to appreciate yourself when you do embody these qualities that you probably admire in other people, but maybe just don't quite see in yourself yet. So that would be a powerful way to connect with Empress energy, is to literally spend time with the card, or to print out a photo if you don't have a tarot deck, or just to kind of reflect on some of the qualities that I just shared, and even write them down and place them on an altar, place them in a safe place where you can come back to it and affirm yourself by saying, you know, I am powerful, I'm kind, I am wise, I am grounded. Any of those affirmations that you can come back to, and visuals, if it makes sense, will really help you to begin to actually absorb that energy into yourself, and to do so on a consistent basis will, I think, make a huge difference for you. All right. And then finally, was this reverse? Yeah. We have the Page of Cups in reverse. And so the Page of Cups is a youthful figure connected to water energy. And when we see the Page of Cups in the upright, we're seeing someone who's often sort of like, you know, connected to a fish, connected to the symbol of the fish. And there's this sort of like youthful curiosity and hope that the Page of Cups contains and exhibits. When we see the Page of Cups in the reverse, sometimes there's a quality of naivety, or if not naivety, more like a wistfulness or a romanticism that isn't totally grounded in reality. And so when your guides show me this, what I get first off is that some of you may be entertaining hopes of a future with this person that is not rooted in reality, or that is not helpful for you or healthy for you. And the other piece is that your guides may be asking you to practice a bit more discernment in relationships, and even to get really clear about the qualities that you want in a partner or in a person that you spend your life with, or just part of your life with. If it resonates that this King of Swords person was a partner, which it's not going to for all of you, getting clear about the qualities you want in a partner would be really helpful. And identifying people in your life who treat you well, who make you feel safe, and who help you to see yourself through loving eyes. And then asking yourself, what kind of qualities do those people have? In the environments and the relationships where I feel calm, and where I feel open, and where I feel able to express myself truly without being judged or harassed or attacked, what qualities do those people have that helps me to feel that way? And if you can begin to ponder that and get clear about the types of qualities that make you feel really good and feel really safe, then that is a really good starting point of a list of qualities to look for in anyone, not just partners, but anyone that you want to connect with. Because I feel for a lot of you that because you have been treated poorly in not just this relationship, but in many relationships, you are sort of lacking a strong enough template of what you do want and what you do need in order to feel clear when you're connecting with people just out in the world. And so it can be difficult when we're swept up in like the act of forming a relationship with someone to like come back to that, like, okay, do they meet these requirements? But it's not something you have to do on the spot when you're just out socializing with someone. It's something you can do when you come back to yourself and when you reflect. And so ensuring that you are reflecting, ensuring that you are taking space to actually ask, how does this person make me feel? And to not focus so much on how other people feel about you, which is a practice. It's hard, can be. But to focus more on how someone makes you feel and to allow that to be the strongest criteria of all is, how does this person make me feel? How do I feel when I'm around them? Is the number one question you want to start asking yourself. And so your guides do see in you also the Page of Cups upright, which is a very loving and sweet and open-hearted figure. This is someone who has a lot of love to give and has maybe seen people that they love through rose-colored glasses in the past. I get the sense that for many of you, you may have Pisces in your chart. You may be a Piscean figure. And if not, you just kind of exhibit this quality. It could be more Neptunian too, of sort of, or even Jupiter. You may have a strong Neptune or Jupiter in your chart, or Pisces. And just while I'm saying this, I also want to mention that the Empress is connected to Venus and the signs Venus rules, which are Taurus and Libra. And then the Eight of Cups, I actually am not remembering the sign specifically that it's connected to. I think, man, I want to look it up. I mean, it's one of the water signs. It's Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. But it does feel like you probably have prominent water placements in your chart, planets in water, or an ascendant or descendant or midheaven or IC in a water sign that's pretty prominent. And so if you don't know your chart, it would be valuable to look into that to kind of begin to understand how your chart operates in your relationships. And I'd recommend looking at those axes that I just mentioned, ascendant, descendant, midheaven, and Imam Coeli, which is IC or MC. It's a lot of words. And then Venus is an important planet when it comes to connection. And it's important and valuable to gain this information about yourself if you don't have it already, because sometimes through learning about these archetypes and these signs and these planets, we develop a greater sense of self-awareness that we maybe could not see clearly because we can't see ourselves clearly all the time. It requires learning, it requires education, it requires getting to know ourselves as we would any other person. And if you've been taught to see yourself through a veil and through an illusion and through the way that other people perceive you, it can be really, really helpful to study your chart, to get to know yourself on a more objective level, and to develop a clear understanding of both your strengths and also your weaknesses so that you can work with it. Astrology has been the single most transformative practice of my life. And I personally have significant Pisces placements, and I've this could be my reading. This is like very close to my heart. And I have gone through a lot of these struggles, and up until quite recently, and have allowed myself to be harmed in ways that really saddened me now because I just did not understand what I deserved. And that's not to blame myself for the ways that I've been harmed, but it does help me to understand the way that I, because of my more compassionate and open and receptive nature, need to be more discerning and more protective of my own energy. And in learning about my astrology and learning about my chart, and I am an astrologer, so if you want to get a reading, you can poke down in the description. But in learning about my chart and spending years with it and deepening my understanding of the archetypes that live within me, I've been able to heal a lot of the material that was seemingly plaguing me and that was causing me to enter relationships that were not safe for me and to not see or to ignore red flags. And my self-worth has been tremendously built up over the past couple years from the study of astrology and from the deepening of that understanding. So I would really encourage you, this might just be like, preaching to the choir if you're already into astrology and already doing all of this. And if that's the case, that's an affirmation that you're on the right track and that the work that you're doing in deepening your self-understanding is really important and valuable and is going to aid you immeasurably. I had another card just fall out as I was picking up the deck, so I want to look at it, and we have the Ten of Swords. And so with the Ten of Swords, we see a figure face down with 10 swords in their back. And this indicates endings, often painful endings that come after a lot of sort of like psychic pain and mental pain. The swords connected to the mental field, to the mind. And so you, according to your guides and according to the cards, are really in a place where you're feeling the brunt of the pain that you've experienced from potentially years of, oh, sorry, I thought my computer was dying, from potentially years of experiencing abuse or ill treatment or self-defeating thoughts that have come from past experiences of abuse and ill treatment. And so engaging in some type of trauma therapy at this point would be so worthwhile, whether that looks like a therapy like EMDR, which I love. Look it up if you're not familiar. It's really powerful for trauma healing. Parts work, internal family systems can be extremely valuable for trauma healing too, especially when we're trying to integrate the parts of ourselves that we're maybe not comfortable with yet, or maybe the unhealed parts of ourselves that we've stored away in the background, shoved in the closet, put elsewhere so that we keep it safe. But in doing that, we sort of suppress parts of ourselves that really need attention and healing. And so what the Ten of Swords is telling me too, in addition to all of that, is that you have reached the end of a cycle though. And what comes after the 10 is the 1. It's a new beginning. And so as painful as this experience has been and as harmful as it's been in many ways, know that you are closing out a cycle and that the closure that you need is the beginning of your healing. The closure that you need is for you to take a step in the direction of healing and recovering from this experience, which you will. And it may not feel that way right now. It may feel like so painful and so impossible to move beyond this. But you will. You absolutely will. And taking the step to get the support that you need in doing that is the missing ingredient. If you're having recurring thoughts, if you're having painful thoughts coming up and it feels impossible to free yourself of those, really do consider finding someone that you can talk to about that. Whether that looks like therapy, if you don't have the means for therapy, consider speaking with a trusted friend about it, or an adult who you really trust and whose opinion you value and who you feel safe with. If you don't have that accessible, I really suggest practicing writing, practicing free writing without editing your thoughts, exhaling the feelings that you have, putting them on paper, putting them somewhere, burning them safely if you want to free yourself of recurrent thoughts is another powerful action that you can take and really valuable on full moons again. Please do it safely if you do that. And I think that some combination of this, in addition to any other practices that call to you, that find their way to you, mindfulness practices, meditation can be really valuable. Yoga can be really powerful, especially really gentle yoga like yin, like restorative yoga. So I really encourage you to spend some time just exploring and just seeing which of these things, if anything has sparked your curiosity that I've mentioned, or if anything was already on your mind and I just mentioned it again, I would really recommend looking into that. And definitely exploring the astrology of it all, definitely exploring your charts. If you are interested in working together, I offer Akashic Records and obviously tarot and astrology readings and energetic support. And there are so many other practitioners who do these things too and would be happy to support you. But being kind to yourself and being thoughtful about where you invest your time and your energy, recognizing that it is precious and that you are precious, and that your guides see you as precious and deserving of love and safety and care, that is the most important thing, to keep connecting with that, to keep reminding yourself of that. All right, I want to get one final message for you about what the next phase of your life holds, so you have something to look forward to. What does the next phase of my Pile One's life hold for them? Was this reverse? We have the Magician in the reverse. So this is the reclamation of your power. When we see the Magician upright, it's someone who knows how to utilize their power to create the life that they want for themselves. It's someone who's a powerful manifester, someone who can set their vision on something and they'll allow their power to flow through and make that happen. And when we see the Magician in the reverse, it's often someone who doesn't recognize their power yet. And so I feel that for you, the healing work that you're going to do in this next chapter of your life is about that. It's about recognizing your power. It's about coming back to a place of self-empowerment and identifying the ways that old narratives are causing you to believe that you are a disempowered person. When you do contain the tools that you need within you in order to create the life that you want, and leaning on other people and leaning on the support systems that you do have is going to be the pathway to creating that life for yourself. You just have to start believing that. All right, my Pile Ones, that is the end of your reading. I'm not doing an extended today, but if this was valuable for you, please do like, comment, subscribe. I'll be getting back online more often and sharing more readings in the near future, so stick around, and I hope to see you soon. Hey, Pile 2, if you chose the Linestrider Mini Tarot and this Rose Quartz Tumbler, then this is your pile. Welcome. So I just want to say the lighting is suddenly really different. I had to turn the overhead lights on because it was getting too dark in here and you just like couldn't see my face anymore. So there could be something for you about feeling metaphorically like the lights are sort of turning back on in your life, and that could be from clarity, that could be from a change of environment, that could be from some type of shift that you've made. Maybe you're coming out of a period of feeling pretty low and feeling like you were in the dark, and this could signify for you a big transitional period and a big point of transition where things are really shifting in your life for the better. And so it's interesting because your card is the Page of Swords in the reverse, which can indicate someone who is sort of caught up in the more shadow side of Swords energy, which can be a little sometimes shady, a little deceptive. I get a lot of like catfish vibes from the Page of Swords in reverse. And so this could, for many of you, this could be representing you. This could be a period of time where maybe you were like cyber stalking someone who you couldn't seem to achieve a sense of closure with, maybe someone that you've been fixated on. Maybe you're beginning to see the ways that you personally played a role in a relationship or in a situation where things just did not go well. Maybe you saw parts of yourself that you didn't like, and the lights turning on is sort of metaphorically coming on to say that you're able to now see things more clearly. And with that clarity often comes a pain. It can be painful to see things clearly. It can be painful to develop more self-awareness, but it's also a really powerful step toward change and toward shifting your circumstances and shifting your way of relating. And so if that doesn't resonate, this could be that the Page of Swords in reverse is representing someone that you had a connection with, or maybe just the nature of the situation in general. Maybe it was deceptive, maybe there was lying, maybe there was some degree of manipulation, or just a lack of boundaries, especially around communication. Like the Page of Swords in reverse kind of reminds me of someone who like can't stop talking, and in a way where they don't have a sort of like impulse control, and they might overshare, or they might say things that are hurtful and not quite understand why they're hurtful. And so there's this sort of often lack of self-awareness that comes with the Page of Swords in reverse. And so whether you resonate with this, or whether this reminds you of someone that you're seeking closure with, if that is on the money, then this is your pile today. I want to get a little bit more insight because it's feeling vague. So let's get a little bit more clarity on the situation that you're needing closure on. So we have the Ace of Cups in reverse. So for some of you, this could, sorry, that's not focusing. For some of you, this could be someone that you were like crushing on and it didn't go anywhere, and it feels like a missed opportunity. It feels like something that could have been, should have been, etc., that just wasn't, that did not pan out the way that you wanted it to. And I do get the sense that that is probably in the realm of love and romance for a lot of you, that there's maybe a person who did not share your feelings, or a sort of unreciprocated, unrequited love situation where maybe you've been fixated on them and having trouble letting go because you just didn't get the answers that you wanted. And you may be perceiving that as not getting the answers that you needed. For many of you, this may feel a little harsh, but I do get the sense that for some of you, if that is the case, if this is a situation where you're kind of questioning if someone really did have feelings for you and they just weren't being honest or forthcoming about those feelings, I am feeling like that was not the case. And like for a lot of you, holding on to hope with this person is actually causing more harm than it is good at this point. And I'm really sorry to share that with you. It's really painful to not have someone reciprocate our feelings, and especially if it's someone that we were quite enamored with, and even in some cases may have had love for. This could be a situation where you did feel as though you were in love or were falling in love with this person. You may have felt that they were sending you mixed signals, and that they were demonstrating in some way that they did have feelings for you. And, you know, with coming back to the Page of Swords in reverse, if you resonated as that being the other party, it could be that this is someone who does play games, and someone who is sort of thoughtless or careless about the way that they engage with other people and potentially lead other people on. So if that feels relevant for you, I would say it's going to be important for you to understand that the way that this person treated you or behaved toward you may not be speaking to greater feelings. It may not be accurate. This may be a flirt. This may be someone who just kind of like peacocked, feathery, kind of show off energy to get attention, and that's their stuff. That's not your problem, and that's not your fault. And if you were feeling like you wanted to have another conversation with this person to get some type of clarity, but you were nervous about initiating that conversation, I think you've come to the right place. I think we can kind of dig in and kind of get a little bit better of a sense of kind of what happened here and what you do need to know in order to step forward and to feel like you can be free of this situation. So what else do you want pile 2 folks to see about this situation? So we have the 3 of Swords. And these actually, I'm getting the sense, I don't think, I'm going to take another. I'm going to take all of these. Okay, so is that upright? Yes. Is it upright? No, it's reverse. Okay, so we have the 3 of Swords in reverse, and we have the 4 of Cups in reverse. So when we see the 3 of Swords in reverse, this can sometimes indicate that we are letting go of a past heartbreak, or that we're moving beyond a heartbreak after a painful period, and often a triggering period. When we see the 3 of Swords, it's 3 swords that are piercing a heart, typically. And those 3 swords can be resonant of past experiences that we've had that are now being triggered. It can reflect or represent 3 ways that we've been hurt deeply in our current circumstances. Whatever the case is, there are 3 swords that have pierced us that do at some point need to be removed. And so the process that I get the sense for you're currently in is that removal, is pulling out the swords and is tending to the wounds that have been left behind. And I think something that could be helpful for you is just affirming to yourself that you are worth reciprocal love, that you are worth a consistent, loving presence in your life who does see you for who you are and who does appreciate you and love you as you are, that you do not need to strive to be accepted in relationships. And if you're having that feeling of needing to prove yourself over and over again, or needing to mold yourself into a shape that better suits someone else so that you can receive love from them, then that in itself is indicating that there's a lack of authenticity in that relationship. And the 4 of Cups, which came up next in reverse, indicates to me that because you are focused on this relationship, you may be missing out on other opportunities that are in front of you. But it feels like, because it's in the reverse, you are coming into a place of clarity around that. You are recognizing, okay, I've been sort of detached from my life. I haven't been as present in my life. I haven't been able to appreciate what's in front of me because I have been focused on what I perceived as a missed opportunity, what I perceived as maybe you thought this person was it for you. Maybe you thought that this was like a person you could spend your life with. And it unfortunately did not pan out that way. And you're now recognizing that you need to reclaim a part of yourself and of your energy that you were investing in this person. And maybe the hope and the love that you envisioned yourself carrying for this person, maybe for a long time. And I get the feeling that for a lot of you, this was sort of like a young relationship, not like in terms of how old you are necessarily, but that the relationship itself was like very much in the budding stage. Like it was pretty new, and maybe it didn't even develop into an actual relationship of sorts, like a romantic relationship, but it was just more of this stage of flirtation and curiosity. Maybe you dated, maybe it was early stages, and that you did kind of quickly invest a lot of your hope into that person. And that's okay. It's understandable. I think most of us have done that at one point or another. But your guides do want to remind you that there are, for lack of a better phrase, other fish in the sea, and there are other people who would genuinely appreciate you and care for you and love you. And so part of your healing process, part of removing those 3 swords, is beginning to affirm the things that you love about yourself that are valuable, that are beautiful, your qualities, and sort of maybe it's 3 qualities. Because with the 4 of Cups, we see 3 cups that this person is typically fixated on. And there's one 3 empty cups that they're fixated on, and there's 1 cup that's being handed to them from out of the clouds from spirit, but they're not seeing it because they're so focused on these empty cups in front of them, and they're not thinking, maybe there are other opportunities around me, maybe there's more to experience here. And so for you, potentially identifying 3 qualities that you have that could act as healing balms for the disappointments that you've experienced in love. Maybe it's from 3 significant relationships. Like perhaps there were 3 relationships that were significant in your life that taught you a lot about yourself and love, and sort of identifying the lessons that you've taken from those relationships and how you want to apply those lessons to your future could be a powerful way to move forward and enter new relationships from a place of more security with self, from a place of more self-love, and from a place of more self-acceptance and appreciation. The next card we have is the 6 of Pentacles, which is typically a card of generosity. And so I get the sense that you will be getting help if you haven't already, especially when it comes to building up your self-esteem and potentially like dating. And I realize I've been really focused on romance in this reading, and probably you're not listening anymore if it didn't resonate for you, if that particular case didn't resonate for you. But the sense that I'm getting from the 6 of Pentacles is that you're going to get some type of support, like practical support. It could be like an introduction to someone that you end up hitting it off with. It could be a job. It could be like making more money and feeling a greater sense of material security that then leads you to feel a bit more generally secure and stable in your life and confident. We don't want to tie our confidence and our self-esteem to our money or to our possessions or what we have, but it sure helps to not worry about how you're going to make rent next month when it comes to feeling centered and grounded. And when we feel more centered and grounded, we're able to enter relationships from a place of more self-confidence and security. And so that could be relevant for you, that if you've been feeling financially insecure in some way, that financial insecurity could be bleeding into your relationships and kicking up some degree of emotional insecurity around what you have to offer. Or maybe you just are questioning, like, if I don't make enough money, I'm not going to be an attractive partner. And like, there's a lot that goes into that. That's a lot to unpack, and it can be hard, but know that there are plenty of people in the world who want and do partner with people who are not rich, who are not wealthy, and who have a lot of emotional generosity to offer, and who have a solid character, and who have kindness, and who have characteristics that are far more valuable than the amount of money that you have in the bank. And while it's helpful to have enough money in the bank to live a comfortable life and to live a safe life, of course, I would encourage you to kind of like try your best to peel apart maybe the parts or the perceptions of self that are coming from lack around what you don't materially have, and how that might be playing a role in any sort of more emotional or relational insecurity that's coming up. All right, let's get a little more clear guidance about what you can do to gain closure around this particular situation. A lot of reversals today. So you have the Hierophant in the reverse. Something is telling me that you were feeling pressure to lock it down quickly with this person. And the Hierophant in the upright often indicates some type of traditionalism, or like a path of learning or a path of commitment. Sometimes it indicates marriage. And when I see it in the reverse, there's sort of like a need for more discernment and a need for more, sometimes to break free from a traditional role or from traditional ideas about how you should live your life. And so for some of you, it could be that you were trying to force the issue with this person because you've had pressure to get married, or you've felt pressured to go take a certain path in life, and that you felt like this person had to play a really key critical role in that path. And when you identified, like, I like this person, and again, like, if this isn't romance, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a connection that would be significant in work. But if it is love related, then it does feel like you sort of honed in on this person as the solution or as the pathway toward what you were looking for. And in doing that, you may have actually not seen them clearly. And that is something we often do in relationships when we're trying to kind of make it fit. And I think that as time passes and as you gain a deeper understanding of your own needs and desires, that this person will seem less attractive to you because they just don't check the boxes that you're looking for in many ways. And I think that developing a clearer vision around what it is that you want and who it is, what type of person you would like to partner with or be connected with, that you'll gain a lot of clarity and healing from that process. And so to move forward might require also questioning the pressures that have been placed on you to live a certain type of life. Another message I'm getting that might be relevant for some of you is that this could have been more of like a heteronormative relationship that you were seeking, and you may be queer. You may be someone who wants to explore different types of relationship structures other than monogamy. There may be some type of like alternate path that you could be taking that would be more fulfilling to you and that would be more true and authentic to you. But because of the pressure that's been placed on you to live a certain way, I get the sense that you locked your eyes on this person and you were like, this is the path to that. So I would definitely encourage you to do some soul searching around that and just to sort of interrogate, like, is this truly me, or is this an idea or a vision for my life that's coming from someplace that is not true to me? Okay. I want to get a little more information. What else do we need pile 2 to know? We have the Hermit in reverse. So for some of you, I feel like you have been isolating yourself quite a bit and essentially kind of like locking the door and saying like, if they're not it, then what is? And sort of going into this self-defeating mindset where you believe that because it did not pan out with this person, that means that nothing is going to work for you. And these may just be like fleeting thoughts. They may not be like your predominant thought. Like I feel with the like lights on message at the beginning that you are developing more clarity around this relationship. But I just had the 4 of Swords pop out. And the 4 of Swords upright says that we need to rest and we need to heal after a period of pain. You did have the 3 of Swords come out earlier, and the 4 of Swords follows the 3 of Swords, and it's when we're in a time of recovery. So what's really important is to give your body and your mind and your spirit the time that you need to heal. And if you've sort of tried to rush through the healing process and to move past it and to tell yourself that everything's fine and that you're over it and that it's not a big deal because you think that's what you should say or how you should feel, try to give yourself more time. I'm hearing like 4 weeks. If you say to yourself, I'm going to allow myself to grieve for 4 weeks and see how it feels. And it doesn't have to be every day or every minute, but if you want to come back once a week to the thought of this person and to the feelings that were invested in this person and give yourself the space that you need to feel that, maybe to write about it. With Swords, we see a lot of mental stuff happening, so you might need to get those thoughts onto paper and process them. And I get the sense that in 4 weeks, you will feel a lot better, but probably not less time than that. And maybe a little longer. It might take longer, especially if this is something that is a little bit more fresh. So whatever the case is for you, try to give yourself spaciousness. Try to be generous with yourself around the amount of recovery time. And again, coming back to the Hermit in reverse, you don't need to isolate yourself in order to do that. You might want to connect with friends. You might want to connect with people in your life who can sort of like help you to laugh and get outside and go for a walk and go have a meal and connect with people and remind yourself that you're a social being, and that just because you're feeling sad and gloomy and grieving the loss of this relationship or the loss of what you imagined this relationship could be, which is usually the most painful part, is that we lose a vision. You know, we lose a vision of what could have been when a relationship is removed from our lives, or when a door is closed, or when we don't get an answer. Maybe you were ghosted in this situation. That could be true for a lot of you, that this person ghosted you and just disappeared and didn't give you an answer, and they were running away because they didn't want to have a hard conversation and they didn't want to have to be honest. And if that's the case, that sucks. It sucks when that happens, and it's not easy, and it can really create a lot of like mental pain, because then there are so many what ifs and possibilities that we ruminate on. But know that the way that that person behaved is an indication of how they behave, not what you are worth. And so that in itself might be a red flag for you in the future. If someone cannot have hard conversations, then they are probably not the right person for me. If someone is not mature enough to tell me how they feel, even if it might hurt me, even if it might cause our connection to be gone forever, potentially, and that door then closes for them, something they may have wanted to leave ajar just for the sake of coming back when they wanted to, which is not love. That is not love. Keeping a door open just so you can come back to someone when you need attention or affirmation, validation, whatever, that is not love. And so if someone is treating you in that way, which is basically like breadcrumbing or submarining or like all these wacky little terms they have for dating stuff now. But if someone has been treating you that way, they are not moving with love. And it would be helpful for you to remind yourself of that, even if it's hard, even if it hurts, to recognize that and to acknowledge that. It's going to be really helpful for you to move forward and focus on connecting with people who treat you with respect. I had the High Priestess pop out of the deck. You know all of this already. There's a part of you that intuitively has known these answers and that may have just been sort of turning a blind eye to them because you wanted to maintain hope for something that could have been or something that could be. And you may have been receiving a lot of signs, it felt like, that indicated like this person might be it for me. And what the High Priestess comes in to tell us is that part of this experience for you has been about demonstrating to you the way that your intuition works and the way that spirit talks to you and the way that your guides talk to you. Because you're going to begin to deepen your understanding of that language, and you're going to be able to decipher quite clearly between what the ego mind is telling you, the stories that it tells you, and what your guides and what spirit is telling you and what your intuition is telling you. And so if you have been going back and forth, if you've been consuming a lot of readings about this person and we're doing readings for yourself and trying to find answers, which brings me back to that Page of Swords in the reverse at the beginning, which can be a sort of like cyber stalking, for lack of a better word, like looking at their social media, trying to get information about them, trying to understand what's going on for them, trying to like find answers. Understand that that is the ego part of you that wants to maintain a connection to this person and that wants to maintain a sense of control over the situation by gathering information, we're often trying to maintain a sense of control because it feels reassuring to have answers, especially when someone has ghosted us or manipulated us, and they may not have manipulated you. That's not true for everyone. But if they did disappear, if they did give you vague answers, if they were avoidant, if they were avoiding being honest with you and having necessary conversations, then it makes sense that you would be searching for answers. And just know that there will come a time in the near future when you just stop looking. And it's okay if you keep looking for a little while. You're human. It's okay. But there will come a time soon when you will feel indifferent to this person. And that will be an incredible time because you will sort of wake up from the cloud and maybe weeks have gone by or days have gone by and you haven't thought about them. And then you'll be reminded of them and you'll realize that you have not been thinking about them, that you have not been focusing on them, that you have moved forward. And that you might maintain some level of curiosity, but you'll have more power and autonomy and self-control to not indulge and to not keep looking and keep searching and keep hoping. So I want to leave you with a message about what is ahead for you so you can kind of get an indication of what's next. And I have the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. So for many of you, I feel coming back to the messages about like finances and material stuff, I feel like your focus might turn more to your material world. You could be someone who's building a business or building some type of like career that you hope will support you financially and materially. And it feels like part of your healing process is going to be taking the energy you've been investing into this person and this like situationship, perhaps, and investing it back into yourself, investing it back into what's in front of you, into the things that you find fulfilling, into your resources, your home, your work, your passions, your hobbies. It could be your loved ones. Maybe you have pets or companion animals and your fixation on this person has sort of like caused you to not be as present with them. Or it could be children. Maybe you have children and the fixation on this person has made it so you weren't as able to connect with them in the way that you would like to. And so it feels like you're bringing that energy back. I recommended to Pile 1 that they do a cord cutting, and I'm going to recommend that for you too. Doing some type of cord cutting ritual. Ideally bringing in some candle magic. If these are words that you don't understand, I would encourage you to just look it up. Like maybe look up cord cutting ritual on YouTube. And there are cord cutting meditations and visualizations that you can do. If you have and I'm not saying this because you're in any type of danger, but I'm saying this just as a sort of energetic precaution that doing more energetic protection work could be powerful for you. Even if it's just visualizing yourself bathed in white golden light, like a healing white golden light. It could be visualizing a boundary around you that creates an energetic boundary that people cannot just enter willy-nilly. And that if you're outside and you're feeling more sensitive or keyed up, or if you're around other people, taking a moment to just go inward and imagine that there's a boundary surrounding you that's maintaining your energetic integrity. And I keep looking over here because I'm looking at a protection oil that I have by it's just called Protection, and it's by Natural Magic Shop. And if you have protective oils, I'm gonna put a little bit on right now on your behalf and on mine. Just having practical ways to feel like you're continually energetically cleansing, taking a salt bath, going for walks in nature and handing things over to the trees, handing things over to the earth, asking them to take it back and to compost it for you, and doing so with gratitude. These little practices will make a big difference, especially if you do them every day or even just every week. So be thoughtful, be mindful about the way that you're putting your energy into things. Try to bring in a pause before you make a choice to invest your time or your focus into this person, especially. And ask yourself if you're able to connect and pause and be mindful before you do something. Ask yourself, what would be more generative? What would make me feel better? What would resource and support me right now instead? Instead of spending time listening to a reading about this person, instead of spending time focusing on what could have been, and not bypassing the feelings that come up, but I'm talking about the mental stuff, the fixation. Asking yourself how you can devote that energy and that time to yourself instead. Okay, pile 2, that's all I have for you. There's no extended reading today, but if this was valuable, please do like and comment and subscribe. I'll be back with more videos soon. I'm in transition myself, but yeah, I'll be back soon. So please do stick around, and I hope to see you soon, and I hope this is helpful and that you're well, and I hope that your healing process only deepens and brings you a lot of peace and resolve soon. Sending you love. Hi, pile 3. If you chose the Sambucus tarot and this pink jasper, this is your reading. So I might be sipping a little kombucha during this reading. You might like kombucha. This is a ginger lemon. It's really good. I just felt like I needed a little pick-me-up after the last reading. They've been a little heavy, and of course the topic itself of closure is rarely light. Usually we're coming here asking about something that was difficult for us. So if that's you, I might encourage you to have a little treat as you listen to this, and as I fix this hair that's been popping out the whole time. Having a little treat, maybe doing something that makes your body feel good as you listen to this, like going for a walk, or maybe just laying down and taking a rest, maybe having something to drink or to eat. Anything that makes your body feel good, it feels like that's really important for you, focusing on the body and coming back to what feels good. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the anchor card, the one that you chose, and then we're going to kind of explore and see, maybe get a little bit more insight about the situation that you've come here specifically asking about, and then identify the ways that you can move forward from the situation and what you need to do in order to gain the closure that you're looking for. So your card is the 9 of Swords in reverse. So when we see the 9 of Swords upright, we're looking at someone who is experiencing a lot of anxiety. It's usually someone, this is a different depiction than the typical depiction. They're usually laying in bed and there are 9 swords that are above them, indicating that there's a lot going on in the mental field. This sometimes means insomnia. This sometimes means nightmares or thoughts that are keeping you up. But when we see the 9 of Swords in reverse, it often indicates that you're sort of beginning the process of releasing a lot of the past fears, anxieties, and sometimes more obsessive thoughts that have been haunting you for a while. This could be a situation, I'm getting for a lot of you, this is like a work situation, or for many of you, it's going to be focused on relationships. But for a lot of you, this also could be you letting go of past trauma or past experiences that were traumatic or painful for you, if not traumatic. And because I say that because the 9 of Swords in the upright can often indicate that we're really needing healing. We're really needing support in healing and in breaking free from some of the recurrent thoughts that are keeping us stuck in a cyclical state of pain. And that is often the result of a very difficult experience that has caused us to go down that path into cyclical thinking, into recurrent thought cycles that keep us really stuck and feeling like we can't move forward into a place of relief and peace. And so this feels like where you're at right now is that you are potentially already doing some type of healing work in order to move forward, but you might be feeling that you're not able to quite like achieve the level of peace and freedom that you're wanting from your past, whatever that past was. And let's get a little bit more information about the situation that you're actually trying to gain closure from. So we have the Seven of Wands, and we have the Nine of Wands in reverse. So starting with the Seven of Wands, I am hearing that this is work related for a lot of you. It could be that you were in a toxic work environment where there was a lot of competition and a lot of rivalry and a lot of needing to prove yourself. For others of you, this might be like family of origin stuff. Like you may have lived in a really combative household where there was a lot of fighting, a lot of ego, a lot of drama. Whatever the case, and if this is more relational, if this is like a friend circle or a romantic relationship, whatever it is, it feels like there was a lot of heat surrounding this situation and a lot of needing to like kind of be chesty and to prove your worth and to sort of fight to have your voice heard and fight to be seen and fight to be recognized. And so the dynamic that creates in us is that we are sort of in this fight or flight mode where we're constantly sort of like waiting for the chance to prove ourselves, to prove our worth, to sort of like be what we're expected to be in order to get our needs met. And so for a lot of you, this does feel very sort of old. This feels like it could be recognizing that this is the dynamic that existed in your family of origin, that your caretakers may have set you against your siblings, if you have siblings, or that you may have just experienced a lot of infighting where you did not feel safe around the people that you were around. You did not feel safe to express yourself freely or vulnerably. And so that may have caused you to become prickly or guarded or more hardened and to feel like you had to be in a more defensive posture in order to stay safe, in order to just like operate. Maybe it really wasn't and was not a safe situation. That could be true for a lot of you, that this was unsafe, like physically unsafe, and that there was some degree of violence that you experienced or were exposed to. And I'm really sorry if that's the case. I'm sorry if any of this is the case. It's all difficult. Regardless of the context, whether this was like childhood stuff, work stuff, relationship stuff, friend stuff, in any of those situations, it feels like you have done some degree of processing around this, but you're recognizing that your nervous system and your responses, your automatic responses to signals that feel like threats, or maybe to other people, if you get the sense that they're threatening you in some way or could pose a threat, that there's a level of defensiveness and guardedness that you haven't been able to let go of. And that may be what you're coming here asking about today, is how you can sort of find closure with the experiences of the past so that you can move forward and be a bit more receptive to connection, or just receptive in general. The Nine of Wands in reverse is another indication that you are wanting to set this burden down, which is a really positive thing and something to be really appreciative of yourself for, because often when we go through ongoing cycles of chaos to some degree, our system, our bodies get so familiar with that state of chaos that it can be difficult to let go of it. And we often seek out environments and people that resemble those experiences and that energy because it's just what we're used to. And there's some sort of strange degree of comfort that we find in that. And so that may have been true for you before. You may have found yourself continually returning back to places that reminded you of those earlier experiences, but that you're actually recognizing you no longer want to experience that. Like you may have had an experience that sort of set you over the edge, that brought you back to an old pain, an old wound, and recognized this is not good for me and I don't want to put myself through this anymore. And so when we see the Nine of Wands in reverse, we're in essence saying like all of these wands I've been carrying, these burdens that I've been carrying around, this like incessant need to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep pushing, I'm letting go of that. I'm putting the wands down one by one. I'm turning away from it and I'm walking to a place where there's more freedom and more peace. Let's get a little more information about where you're at right now. Okay, so we have the Five of Wands. A lot of wands. There's a lot of hot energy in this reading. When we see the Five of Wands, it's often like little sort of needless battles or fights. It could be getting into conflict with people that's just like not really stuff. It's like a battle you don't need to fight. Like where the advice would be like, choose your battles. And it feels like for you, part of maybe the experiences you're having that are reflecting back to you the need for healing is that you could have a shorter fuse with people. You could be feeling like you're pretty reactive, or like it doesn't take a whole lot to anger you or upset you, and that you may feel irritable and kind of just like hot-tempered, and that you're having a hard time accepting that about yourself and kind of coming to a state of peace in recognizing that this is how you've been conditioned, and that this ego response and this protective response to fight is something that you needed. It's something you developed in order to stay safe. And so I get the sense that part of your healing and part of you finding closure with the past is you showing yourself gratitude. And even, it may sound strange, but showing these coping mechanisms gratitude for the way that they've supported you and the way that they've protected you. An example of that would be like, if you have a short fuse and people can anger you really quickly and you tend to like get hot and defensive or, just reactive. If you feel like you get reactive quite easily and you're beating yourself up for that, it would be helpful instead to take a second and say, you know what, I'm grateful for this fighting spirit within me because it kept me safe in the moments when I was not safe. It kept me protected in the moments when I was not protected. But am I safe now? Can I protect myself in different ways now? Do I have different tools that I can access now? Because when we express gratitude and when we express appreciation for these parts of ourselves that have been operating on overdrive for a long time to keep us safe, often they'll soften. And when we judge them and when we beat ourselves up for behaving in certain ways, and when we beat these parts of ourselves up for behaving in certain ways, it doesn't tend to help. It tends to actually make things worse, because what does a fighter do when someone is beating them up? They fight. And so if you have this fighting spirit within you and you're trying to like beat it out of yourself, for lack of a better word, I hope that's not triggering. I'm sorry for the language choice. But if you're trying to approach it like fight fire with fire, it's not going to work. You need to bring in some water. You need to bring in some compassion. You need to bring in some gratitude and softness. And if that's hard for you to access, let's find a route toward accessing that. That will be our next question. How can my pile threes access the softness and self-compassion that they need in order to heal? So we have the sun. We have the sun upright. It came out sideways, actually, so we'll kind of read it that way. The sun is joy. The sun could literally be like spending time in the sun, doing things that feel uplifting and that feel joyful, allowing yourself to play. That might not be something that you were allowed to do or that you were freely able to do when you were a child. Can you give yourself opportunities to play in ways that feel freeing? The sun can also be an indication of celebration. And so celebrating yourself, even for little accomplishments, for getting up in the morning and going through a morning routine, for making yourself a nice meal, for like taking good care of your body. I mentioned the kombucha thing earlier, and like doing nice things for your body felt like it was important for this reading. So come back to that. How does your body feel right now in this minute as you listen to this? Can you take a minute just to sort of scan your body? And if you feel aches or if you feel discomfort in any area, try just placing a hand over it and seeing if you can just even imagine that there's an energy of love or an energy of compassion flowing to that place in your body. Because I feel for a lot of you that care for the body and compassion for the body and gentleness for the body is something that has not been available to you. And that part of your healing process has been, up to this point, very focused on the mind. And it feels, like I said at the beginning, like many of you have already done some type of healing work around this stuff. But what has not been addressed is the way that the body is carrying the residual pain. The body does contain emotional pain. The body contains mental pain. The body contains memory. Oftentimes when we've experienced trauma of some kind, our body will start displaying symptoms around the anniversaries of that trauma. It's a very common thing that happens where we might like I know someone who had a really invasive surgery as a result of an illness that they were experiencing, and they'll notice symptoms coming up around that area each year when that mark is about to come up. And it's very common. I've heard multiple people who've had similar experiences share this, and I've personally experienced it too, that I'll notice, like, I went through a severe health situation years ago, and I often notice around the time that began that I'll start getting itchy. Like I'll start having like little skin rashes pop up, and it just happens. It's just how our bodies remember. There's like the book by Van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score, is like famous among the like trauma healing worlds. And there are many other better actually reads than that if you want to engage the mind and learn more. But it feels like for you right now, focusing on the somatic experience and the somatic healing that needs to happen is going to be a pathway toward the healing that you're looking for and toward the resolution of a lot of that mental stuff. That coming down into the body, doing more somatic exercises, working with a somatic practitioner, somatic therapeutic practitioner, if that's accessible and available to you, could be really powerful. There are a lot of therapists that are trained in more somatic mindfulness practices, and certain practices like EMDR, which I've mentioned twice now in this reading, and not in your pile, but in general. EMDR is a great example of something that engages the body to help heal a lot of the old stuff that's been contained within our bodies and our psyches that is not yet healed because neural pathways are well worn and we keep going down the same path mentally over and over because that's how the body and the mind work. And so undoing that and learning a new way of seeing the world and of seeing ourselves requires repetition, and it requires attention for this little meat suit that we're in. So I would really encourage you to also, again, if it's accessible to you, I know it can be expensive and not accessible to everyone, but getting some form of body work, again, ideally with a practitioner who's trauma informed. Massage can be really helpful. Working with a Reiki practitioner, working with an acupuncturist. All of these are ways to engage the body in the healing process, because often it's the last thing that we think about when we're trying to heal emotional trauma. We don't just quite understand how much here needs support. Yoga. Breathing. All of these practices can be really powerful. Just taking 60 seconds to breathe and to not like adjust the length of your breath or anything, but just to inhale and exhale and maybe count the in-breath and count the out-breath. All of these can support you in your healing process. Okay, I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over. But it's really important. Please, pile 3, pay attention to your bodies and give them love because they really do need you right now. What else would you like to say to our pile 3s? Knight of Swords. When I see the Knight of Swords, I often think that we're cutting ties with old illusions or old versions of ourselves that are no longer true. Sometimes this reminds me of like ancestral threads, like generational patterns that have lasted generation after generation in our family line, in our lineage, and the sort of like karmic burden that is passed from one generation to the next, especially when our elders and ancestors were not able to heal their own pain. It often gets kind of pass the buck kind of thing, where the responsibility then gets passed to the next generation to do that type of healing. And often our ancestors didn't have the resources, did not have the knowledge, did not have access to the type of healing that we have now. And so we are privileged to be able to have the time, to have the space, to have the resources, hopefully, to heal some of what our ancestors were not able to heal. And so for you, it might be true that this sort of pattern of being in high conflict environments is something that's resonated through your family line for many, many, many generations. And this may be the opportunity for you to heal something in your lineage that's been desiring healing for a long, long time, like decades after decades after decades. Could be hundreds and hundreds of years that this pattern has been going on. And it may be true, I'm hearing for some of you, that you may come from a family of immigrants where they had to fight in order to establish a life in a place that was safer for their families. And if that is true, perhaps showing a bit of gratitude to the fighters in your family who did have to fight in order to create a more safe or lucrative future for you and for other descendants. And there could be cultural elements of this too. Like maybe you come from a culture where a lot of like verbal fighting and a lot of yelling is more common and is more acceptable, but you're recognizing that it's maybe something that doesn't personally work for you. And that's okay. I think it's difficult for us to kind of unwed ourselves and our personal needs from sort of like what our culture says is normal and says is safe and is okay. And we don't all respond the same to those things. For another person, it might be totally okay. It might not impact them in the way that it impacts you. But the fact that it does impact you the way that it impacts you is more than enough for you to say that that's not cool for me. And there may be grief in that too. If you are one of the only people from your family or like from your community that you know who is working on this stuff and is attempting to heal some of this stuff, there's a real sense of like grief and isolation that can come with that, because you feel like a black sheep in many ways who has to be the one to carry the sword, who has to be the one to like carry the truth forward and reveal something that other people may deny because they're not ready to accept it or acknowledge it for themselves. But you are. And that's an extremely brave thing to do. And it takes a fighter to be willing to set themselves apart and to make a choice to do healing work that other people were not able to do. So I hope that you experience pride, healthy pride and gratitude for self, for the ways that you are stepping out from the crowd and the ways that you are choosing yourself, because it is powerful. Like, that is a powerful thing to do, to choose yourself in a place where other people are not choosing themselves, where other people are choosing the old way, where other people are choosing to fall back into the well-worn patterns and to commit themselves to patterns of harm. And if you're choosing to opt out of that and to create something new, that's incredibly courageous. So what I would love for you to do, my dream for you, would be that the next phase of your healing involves you being able to see these beautiful qualities in yourself and to appreciate that the fighter within you exists for a very good reason, and that fighter within you does not have to go away. They're not going anywhere. They're just going to get to do a different job for you in the future. Because when you free yourself of a lot of these old ideas about self and a lot of these generational patterns, you also free these parts of you of the burdens that they've had to carry. And they don't go away. They just get to do a job that's a bit more creative and constructive and supportive. So maybe this fighter wants to fight on behalf of other people. Maybe you'll become an advocate. Maybe you'll advocate for children or for marginalized people or for groups that really need protection and support. Maybe this part of you will become a brilliant writer or speaker who gets to talk about their experiences and in doing so help other people heal too. Maybe you'll get to set an example of what healing looks like when you're stepping out of generational patterns of strife and neglect and conflict and abuse. And I get the sense that for many of you, you contain those dreams within you and that you've even maybe thought about it. You've maybe wondered, is my next step helping other people not experience the same things that I've experienced or helping other people heal? That is in the cards for you, especially if that's something you've wondered about in the past and that's sort of called to you. If the call is there, I really encourage you to pursue it, because I think that you helping others will in turn help you heal too. But just be sure that you focus on your own needs first, that you focus on your own healing experience first, on your own body first, and know that in time you will be given opportunities to share and maybe even teach. But now you're in a space of learning and you're in a space of healing and growing. The knight has a ways to go before they become the king. First, they become the queen. And with the queen, and I don't like that hierarchy anyway. I prefer the queens, but it's very patriarchal. But with the queen, there's a level of inner mastery. And the kings are more about this outer mastery, of the world around them, of whatever. They usually rule over something or someone. With the queens, there's a level of inner mastery and receptivity. There's a deep well of inner wisdom. And so what you're on your way to discover as this knight is out on this adventure, this intellectual adventure, you are discovering knowledge, you're discovering wisdom, you're discovering new practices, new modalities that we talked about here, and new ways of healing yourself. And then you move into the space of the queen, where you have more of this inner mastery of self. You have these tools within you. You have this wisdom within you. And you become a healer in doing that. And then if you choose to go on to the path of the king, that's more of an outer mastery, where maybe you take a lot of that wisdom from the queen and you begin to apply it outward. You begin to share it. So I would really encourage you to think about these dreams and thoughts that come up for you, about these visuals that you might have of yourself, of stepping into a role as someone who can be a very positive impact on your community and just widely in general. And I really hope that this fighter spirit within you gets the love and appreciation that they've been yearning for, first from you. And then I'm sure that as you come to love yourself more deeply and as you come to accept yourself more readily, that part of yourself will encounter many loving relationships where you are just as loved and just as accepted, and much more than any than you've much more so than in any relationships that you've already experienced. It feels like there's a lot of alignment coming your way. And I just want to get one final card to kind of give me a sense of what's on the horizon for you. And so we have the Three of Swords, which is a card of heartbreak. And what I want to say is that you may be encountering an ending in the future where you decide to step away from relationships that are not serving you anymore. Because as we heal, we also tend to outgrow relationships that were well suited for an old version of ourselves, but are not well suited for the version of ourselves that we're becoming. And with that not always, but often comes some degree of pain. And so what could be on the horizon for you is that you're making the choice, or you may have the choice made for you, that 1 or 2 or 3 relationships need to go. These could be with people who harmed you in the past, or people who even you harmed in the past, or people where you've really attempted to make the relationship work, but you're really stuck in these old patterns and you can't seem to budge out of them. These could be in relationships with people where you're kind of both replaying the pattern that you both experienced as young ones. This could be probably high conflict relationships where you feel like you're reaching the end of the road and you're feeling discouraged and you want to believe that you can pull through and push through and make them work, but they just keep showing you that they're not working. And I want to say that when you do make the choice, or when the choice is made to leave these relationships behind, that you will experience a huge amount of relief. And that it won't come without its heartache. Three of Swords almost always brings some degree of heartache, but it also means that we get to pull the old swords from our heart. Because when we leave relationships behind that reflect old patterns and old versions of us, and relationships that aren't seeming to grow with us, we also are making the choice to invest in our future selves and to invest in our healing and our growth. And so it's a wise choice. And I'm not going to say it'll be easy, but if you make this choice, there is a very beautiful horizon in front of you. And this is an experience you'll really learn and grow from. And it's something that, while it may suck in the middle of it to say goodbye to people that you care about, it's a powerful way to set yourself on the course of healing and on the course of basically a life beautification, what the young ones call a glow up. So I do feel like there is a glow up ahead of you, and I really strongly encourage you to take care of the bod, to treat yourself, maybe to kombucha, and to whatever sort of makes your heart feel full, because you do deserve it. You deserve pleasure, you deserve rest, you deserve ease, and all of those things I do feel are on the other side of some of these endings. Other doors will open up for you as you step forward. All right, pile 3, that's all I have for you today. No extended. If this was valuable, if this resonated for you, please do like, comment, subscribe if you're not already. I will be back soon with more readings. And in the meantime, you can follow me if you want to get the little quick pick-a-piles I do. I post multiple every week. And I'm also offering personal tarot readings, Akashic Records readings, and astrology readings, and you can find all of that in the description box if you're interested. Hope to see you soon. Bye. Take care.